contrary to what he said, I didn't create all the tools, just one of them. So thanks though for that. All right. Thanks. I got two mic. Okay. So hi, good morning. My name is Calvin Yang, and I'm an environmental scientist with the Surface Water Ambient Monitoring Program, or SWAMP unit, at the State Water Resources Control Board. And I'm here to give you an overview of the SWAMP's Bioassessment program and the SWAMP's resources. So my presentation will be more of what current resources are available now that you can access. Before I get started though, I did want to just mention that SWAMP does partner with the California Department of Fish and Wildlife to be the lead of the study design and implementation of the bioassessment program. So that's why we partner with them. And like Jim said earlier, US EPA provides a significant amount of funding to support the bioassessment program and SWAMP's infrastructure. And SWAMP also partners with US EPA on national monitoring activities to provide value to both statewide and national water quality assessments. But before I get into SWAMP's resources, who is SWAMP? SWAMP is made up of a roundtable of monitoring coordinators from the State Water Resources Control Board and the 9 regional water quality control boards. So the map on the left is the 9 regional boards and they're all color coded and they have their borders on there. Along with the water boards, there are also scientists from the UC, CSUs, California Department of Fish and Wildlife, Office of Environmental Health Hazard Assessment, US EPA, and other state agencies. And so here's a smaller list of SWAMP's partners, some of their logos, but there's, like Pete said, many more. So here are some of the resources that I'm going to go over in my presentation. SWAMP has created numerous standard operating procedures, or SOPs, for how to collect the bugs or the BMIs in the algae in the field and how they are processed in the lab. And then this all leads to standardized or SWAMP's taxonomic lists for the benthic soft algae, diatoms, and the BMIs. SWAMP has also created reports, technical memos, and fact sheets, and the purpose of these different documents is to package the information so it can be readily accessible or digested by different levels of audiences. SWAMP has also created the California Stream Condition Index, which is the statewide tool for assessing water bodies using BMIs. And along with that, there are also instructions on how to calculate the CSEI yourself if you wanted to. And then there's also an online interactive map, which is on the ArcGIS platform, where you can look at statewide where the sites have all been scored with the CSEI and with the H20 index, which is the Southern California Hybrid Algae Index. And the purpose of all these resources is to provide timely and high quality information needed to evaluate all surface waters throughout California. And so, in addition to that, SWAMP's resources also do support the development of the biointegrity and nutrients policy. And if you want to access any of SWAMP's data or all of SWAMP's data, you can access it through CDN, which is the California Environmental Data Exchange Network, which is that link there. And like was mentioned previously, there is work to develop a statewide algae index. So here's a screenshot of SWAMP's bioassessment website. This will be the way you access all of those resources I just mentioned, and which I'll go into further. And here's the navigation buttons that you'll use to click to get to them. So if you click on the standard operating procedures link, you'll get access to these 3 resources, but there's obviously more. The SOPs are instructions that describe a specific method or activity, and in order to be SWAMP comparable, you need to follow the SWAMP SOPs. So the first figure, or the map on the left, that was taken from, or it's a screenshot from the Combined BMI and Algae Field Collection SOP. It's depicting the appropriate time period to conduct bioassessment sampling. So the index period is meant to standardize sampling during the most stable flow periods of the year to minimize variation in the biological communities being sampled. Other topics in the SOP also include how to use the reach-wide benthos collection method and how to collect physical habitat. The table in the middle is from the external BMI quality control SOP, and it shows the different codes that the second independent lab or taxonomist would use when they're trying to, when they confirm the identification and count of the sample that was identified by the original taxonomist. The goals of the external QC is to have consistent identifications from multiple labs and to be able to measure accuracy and precision of taxonomic data. Currently, SWAMP requires 10% of its samples to be used for external QC. The figure on the right is from the Stream Algae Lab SOP. It is showing the setup for separating macroalgal and microalgal soft-bodied algae in the lab so they can be correctly identified and enumerated. The lab SOP also includes how to analyze diatoms and cyanobacteria. Another resource that's available is the SWAMP's taxonomic lists for the macroinvertebrates, for the soft algae and diatoms. Obviously these tables aren't the full list, so I just truncated them so they would fit on this slide. But just to give you a general idea, there are over 8,500 BMI taxonomic names, over 1,900 soft-bodied algae, and over 1,800 diatom names. So all of these lists are accessible online. The table on the left is the BMI taxonomic list. SWAMP uses the Southwest Association of Freshwater Invertebrate Taxonomists, or SAFIT, Level 2 taxonomic effort. Calculating the CSCI requires SAFIT Level 2. And then the tables on the right are soft algae and diatoms. And you'll notice that soft algae is lumped in with, or cyanobacteria is lumped in with the soft algae list. If you want more resources for taxonomy, there's also this other link called Taxonomic Resources that you can click on. And they're definitely a lot more visual and I guess easier on the eyes. So the table on the left is from the Bugs to Go PDF document that the Clean Water team and the Aquatic Bioassessment Laboratory created. It's a portable digital resource meant to assist citizen scientists identify and learn about benthic macroinvertebrates and water quality. The screenshot on the right is from, or it's an online identification tool that was created by CSU San Marcos. And on this website, you can query by species or genus, and then what you get is an image of the organism, a short description, and then actually a map that's populated showing where that organism was observed. Right now it's just showing diatoms, but there's also a online tool for soft algae. If you click on the reports and publications link, you'll get access to SWAMP's fact sheet, reports, and technical memos. So the map with the pretty graphics on the left is the CSCI fact sheet. It describes the big picture of what the CSCI is, how it was built, and why it's an advancement over previous indices. It's a good introduction to the CSCI if you're not familiar with the tool. And it's a short 2-pager, but if you wanted more details, there's also a CSCI technical memo. The figure in the middle is from the Assessment of Southern California Depressional Wetlands report. And that figure is showing the percentage of wetlands in the study that were likely considered, or that were considered likely intact or not, based on CRAM, which is the California Rapid Assessment Method. So CRAM scores, a diatom index, and a macroinvertebrate index, which was developed using depressional wetlands in Northern California. This report looked at using multiple tools to assess the condition of wetlands and to evaluate the relationship between the condition and stressors. The other map with the table on the right, that's from the multiple biological and habitat condition indices, or what we call the multi-indicator technical memo. That table displays statewide where CSCI scores, the H20 scores, and CRAM scores all agreed or disagreed on whether a site was degraded. And then this memo also explored how using all three indices together would provide more complete assessments of stream health instead of just using only one index. And I'm just going over the very general idea of each of these reports and fact sheets, just hopefully to get you interested to read it if you haven't yet. So if those documents didn't give you all the information you wanted, SWAMP also does have links to peer-reviewed scientific papers. These are the full version of the papers if you wanted all the information. So the title page on the left is for the California Stream Condition Index paper. The middle paper describes how the reference condition was defined for the large diversity of streams in California. And the paper on the right, which I think might answer, someone's question that was asked in the last presentation. So the paper on the right describes how the diatoms index, the soft algae index, and the hybrid index were developed and evaluated in Southern California streams. If you click on the Data Interpretive Tools link, you'll be able to download a PDF instructions, manual of how to calculate the CSCI yourself if you wanted to, using GIS or the Geographic Information Systems, and R, which is a statistical software. The instructions go over how to delineate the watershed from your sampling site using GIS. So you would start with your site, and then the instructions explain how you can set up your data to be so you can delineate a watershed, which then will be used to calculate environmental predictors. And environmental predictors include things like average temperature, average precipitation, and soil bulk density. Once you have those predictors along with your taxonomy data, you can then use R to calculate the CSCI. The table below is one of the outputs you get from R. And what you get is, so I tried to highlight it, but it's now just green lines. So you get your CSCI score, your multi-metric index score, and then your observed over expected score. There's much more tables that you can get from R, but this is the one that the big picture table. Also, if you're interested in, there's also a recording of me going over the general process for calculating the CSCI. It's called the OWIMA Brown Bag series, or the Office of Information Management and Analysis Brown Bag series, and there's a link of me just going over, going through the process of calculating CSCI scores. So if you're not interested in calculating scores, but you just want to see what sites have already been scored and are available, there's also in the same link an online interactive map that you can click on. You'll notice that in this map, all the, maybe when you look at it on your computer screen. I don't know if you can see it from where you are, but there's dots on this map, and those dots represent CSCI scores, where the green dots are high CSCI scores, and then the red dots are low CSCI scores. You'll notice that in some sites there's some like outer shaded coloring, and that represents the algae H20 scores. And it's also following the same category, where if it's green then it's high H20 scores, and if it's red then it's low H20 scores. And this map is interactive, so you can zoom into a particular site. So what I did is I zoomed into this site, and each site you can click on and you'll get a pop-up that shows you various information. So you can get what the name of the stream is, whether that site is a reference site or not, when the site or when the sample was collected, the CSCI score, and if it does have an H20 score, you can click on this arrow up here and H20 score. And also, if we have the map in our table, you can click on this more info link under URL, and a different pop-up of a photograph that was taken from the site will show up, so you can see the stream and what the site looks like. Like I mentioned before, you can go through CDN to download all of SWAMP's data. And so here's just an example of what it would look like. So if you went to find data and then follow different queries in CDN, you can, for this example, you can pick BMI taxonomy. And what you'll get is an Excel output file, which will have which program collected the sample, the lat and long coordinates, and this in this example, the BMI taxonomy list, and then how many of those organisms were observed. If you only wanted just the CSCI scores and the H20 scores, along with just the general site information, you can click on Excel file link under download data, and that would just give you just the scores and the site information, and if you're not interested in more of the taxonomic information. So I put the link back in for what how to access the SWAMP's Bioassessment website. Thank you for your attention. Here's my contact information if you want to send me any other questions you have later on. But I can try to answer any questions you have now if you like.
I guess you made it clear and solid information. Thank you, Kevin.